is everyone? Is that a trick question? uh, have you ever been to satsang before?
No.
Okay. Just briefly, I just want to give you what to expect, okay? The motto for the Peaceful Mind Center is happiness is not a state of life. Happiness is a state of mind. When we're happy in our mind, and when we're suffering in our mind. But most of us know very little about our mind. That's what the Peaceful Mind Center is for, to teach you about your mind. So we hold satsang basically once a week here, and we have full moon satsang on the beach, and we have our adventure club trips that we do once a month to create a sense of community. During satsang, there's announcements at first. Satsang hasn't really started yet. We'll do about a 10-minute meditation to begin, and then we will start satsang, and I will give a teaching where you're very much open and welcome to ask questions and make comments, okay? That really makes satsang juicy, so don't be shy. And then at the end, we have another meditation for about 20 minutes at the end, okay? So sometimes people come and they think, oh, this is just meditation. This is not just meditation. This is you really being taught, what practice is, how to practice, and what to practice. You come to satsang for understanding. What you're understanding is what to go home and practice. And it's in your practice that you have these realizations, these experiences, the direct experiences of transcending the mind. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay. All right, so sit comfortably. And as you hear the sound of the bell, let it clear your mind and bring your attention to this present moment. And as the bell fades, just stay present in this moment and in that quiet space in your mind. And we'll begin by taking 3 deep, relaxing breaths together. First deep breath in, and exhale. Second breath. And exhale. Third breath. And exhale. Continue breathing deeply, but gently into your abdomen. And I encourage you to breathe more and more slowly until you're breathing as slowly as possible, without it being at all uncomfortable. As you're breathing slowly, let your body relax. Notice any tightness or tension. And as you bring your consciousness to it, consciously allow it to relax. Be very gentle with yourself. Let the muscles in your face relax. And begin to become very present in this moment. Be aware of where you are. Be aware of the room you're in. The people around you. The quality of this moment. Without judgment, without thought, just be in this moment. Be in this moment without thinking about this moment. And relax in this space until you hear the bell. Welcome to Satsang. Tonight I wanted to start our conversation, which can go in whatever direction that it wants to go, on objectivity. Much of the time, what I talk about in satsang is what's coming up in students that I'm working with, over the week. And one of the things that seemed to come front and center for whatever reason was how much the mind colors your world. A little more light. Sorry about that. Okay. It's a little too much. Okay. Sorry, I'm the light guy too. When we're living life and we're going through our day, the mind is constantly coloring things. The mind is constantly judging, weighing, measuring. There's a constant thinking about things that we all experience. And I think that many of us think, that we're able to be objective. But are we really being objective? What does it take to be objective? Can you look at a thing without thinking about it? The moment that you start thinking about it, you're starting to impregnate it with your own bias. Remember, you've heard me say over and over again, we all live on the same world, but not in the same world. It is a world of the perception of our own mind. So the question is, can you see when you're being objective and when you're not being objective? Do you understand what objectivity means? What is objectivity? The mics are in the second row now. I put them back because I'm on to you guys.
To see things as they are, to not endow them with your opinion or like a negative or a positive emotion.
Yeah, very good. So, to see things as they are, to not endow them with your ideas or emotions about them. One has to ask themselves, do I ever do that? Am I ever really objective? One of the most interesting things that I learned from a friend of mine was we were having some political conversations and that we were sort of on opposite sides of. And in order to be objective, he said to me, Tom, if you really want to be objective, try to prove the opposite of what you believe to be true, and see if you can do it. Your ego's going to love that. Try to prove the opposite of what you believe to be true. What do you think happens when you try to do that?
I think you're probably able to generate a pretty good list if you're being open, and then you realize, wow, I have my reasons, and these are the other reasons, and they kind of, I don't want to say, like if it was a contest, they nullify each other almost to the point where you're like, it really just is still an opinion.
You really do find lots and lots of evidence for what the opposite of what you believe to be true. You know, most people, they call them echo chambers. Most people are in like echo chambers. They hang around people and are with people that agree with them. And so people are echoing what they want to believe, and everybody's really comfortable in that. But true objectivity is so important. So incredibly important. Because why? Enlightenment, seeing things clearly as they are. That's the definition we use here at the Peaceful Mind Center of enlightenment. Seeing things clearly as they are. John?
So isn't that equanimity? Isn't being objective? I mean, subjectivity is subject to my own opinion, right? That's subjective, right? So objective, lack of opinion, lack of thought, lack of judgment, lack of perception. Isn't that kind of lack of duality?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. You know, give me a moment. There can still be bias, though, somehow in equanimity. There can still somehow be interpretation. I think that objectivity is slightly different. But very, very slightly. It's a good point. When you remove duality, does everyone understand what we mean when we say duality? No? Good. I'm glad I asked that. Duality is, there has to be two sides of a coin. You can't have one side of a coin, right? True? So duality is that you can't have peace without not peace. Peace wouldn't make sense to you. Okay? So duality is that and not that. There always has to be this duality. If you think about it, this is a world of duality. Up, down, right, left, good, bad, day, night.
Safe, not safe.
Right. If there was no night, day, it wouldn't be any day in that sense. It wouldn't make any sense. You need the opposite in order to make sense of it. So duality is a very important thing, because the language of the ego is duality. Okay? The ego is the one that is always saying, this is good, this is bad. When John said equanimity, which is something that we've spoken about in the past here, equanimity is all things being equal. Neither good nor bad. No judgment of the ego. Very objective.
But aren't we wired to react from duality? Isn't that what our whole limbic system's about? It's either good or bad. It's either fight or flight, right? It's we don't have that option of really not. In other words, we're triggered by when something's unknown. It triggers our brain into being on high alert. So when we get all of the, like, you see something that you don't know what it is, if you physically or however you get objectivity, you're actually going to a place where you don't have an opinion of it, which kind of sets you off a little bit.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, what is your question or your comment?
That I think that one of the things that trips the brain is the unknown. But it fears the unknown. When we first came to the planet, if something wasn't like us, it was to be feared because it was probably trying to eat us or kill us or whatever. So when we see all these things that are not like us, we're naturally wired to judge it as safe or unsafe. And duality asks us to take that away.
I see where I'm getting hung up. When you're saying we're, let's just use the word I. You know what I mean? I am wired for duality. Okay. The difficulty there is when you say I, which I are you talking about? Your mind is wired for duality. The self is not. The self that is in awareness of the mind observes the duality of the mind, the duality of the world. But the self is not wired for duality.
No, but I would say from that, then the only way you're going to get objectivity is to transcend the mind and be in the self.
Yeah.
So if you're judging yourself like we all do that are from our minds for the most part, it's really a tough thing to do.
Right.
But the self has no problem with it.
Yes. Transcendence is what we are here to realize. When we say transcendence, do you know what I mean? Transcending, going beyond the mind, going beyond the thought. There is an awareness that is beyond mind, that requires no thought. That self, with a capital S, is in boundless equanimity. It is the mind that is in duality. So we have to make that distinction. Because yes, the mind, the ego, when I say the language of the ego, the language of the mind is duality. This is good, this is bad. This is scary, run, you know what I mean? These kind of things. When you are residing as the self, when you see a car coming at you that's going to hit you, it's not that you don't react to it. You know what I mean? It's so difficult to put into words this mindless state. You don't need thoughts really to... In those moments are some of the most transcendent moments that people have. You know, has anybody here been here in a car crash where all of a sudden everything was going in like slow motion and you were so utterly present? I guarantee you were not thinking. You were aware of what was happening, and you were so aware that it felt like time slowed down for you. It is the strangest experience. But there really is, this is something that I'm always going to point out to you, is that the challenge for me as a teacher is to help you experience directly that transcendent state. Now, I have to use words and concepts and ideas to describe to you how to do this, in the same breath trying to help you not make a concept and idea out of it. Because what you're going to want to do is think about it. And how do I do this right? And how do I experience this? And the moment you do that, it takes you further away. Which is why I tried to point out to you different things, like objectivity. Because if you can start to practice objectivity, equanimity, they're certainly sisters, it will move you closer to that transcendent state. Because you're getting your mind out of the way. The transcendent state is the mind is out of the way. When you see me many times in satsang, I'll say, give me a moment, and I'll close my eyes. I'm not thinking. I'm meditating and getting my mind out of the way. And then from the intuitive mind, from the heart-based mind, the information comes. You ever notice this happen in your own life? That sometimes you just have a knowing? Sometimes you just know? You don't even know why you know? Don't go down that road? Or go down that road? You know, there's an intuition and a rational mind, and they're not the same thing. Albert Einstein pointed to this when he said we have a society that honors, the intellectual mind and ignores the intuitive mind. He said, but really it's backwards. It is the intuitive mind that is the king, and the intellectual mind the humble servant. But we have become trained into giving so much power and so much credence to this intellectual mind. And so we're trying to think our way into transcendence. It can't work that way. Just breathe on that for a moment while I have a sip. When I speak about this, and you look back on your own experiencing, are you remembering times where you have maybe experienced something like this? I see one yes.
You've been objected like that, where you've been transcendent. What are you referring to?
When give me a moment. Have you experienced moments of objectivity? Moments of intuition?
I think it happens a lot in sports.
Mike, please. Yes, that's interesting. Yes.
I think that elite athletes are able to operate in that state. I've heard them say that things slow down.
Yes.
Like Michael Jordan on the basketball court.
Yep.
He just sees the net and the path is there.
Yep. They call that being in the zone, right? And when an athlete is in the zone, I heard Tim Duncan talk about this. He's like, sometimes I'm just out on the court and it's like throwing the ball in a lake. Like I just can't miss, And I've experienced that playing darts in a bar when I was a kid, right? And yeah, there would be a moment where I would just peak and it was almost like I was placing the dart on the board. I could put it to this side of the dart or that side of the other dart. I could put it wherever I wanted. It didn't last long, but it was unbelievable how time slowed down and I was in that zone. That's a really good example. Really good example. I always want you to relate what I'm trying to show you to what you're experiencing in life yourself, so that it can start to make sense, because once you've related it to something that you've experienced, then all of a sudden it starts to make much more sense to you. Because that's the part that we're trying to cultivate. We're trying to get the mind out of the way. The mind, the purpose of this talk tonight is to help you see how clearly your mind is constantly coloring your experience. It is your mind that is creating your experience as good or bad. It is your mind that is having all of these problems and issues. It is your mind that is up and down. It's such an annoyance. The more that you meditate and the more that you can be in silence and be without the mind, the more annoying you see the mind is. Because you're getting distance from it and you're starting to realize what your mind is doing. For most people, they don't realize what their mind is doing. I want you to realize what your mind is doing. I want you to become conscious to that which is mostly unconscious for most people. The mind is doing this, and it's always been doing this, so they think that it's normal. And everybody else is doing it, so there's no reason to question it. But then you come here and we question it. The only thing that you're ever having an issue with is your mind. What happens in life happens. It's what your mind does with it.
I got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got a little note saying I missed a piece of mail on the door that I assigned for, and they would redeliver.
Mm-hmm.
I waited a couple of days. I know it's important because you got to sign for it.
Mm-hmm.
No redelivery,
Mm-hmm.
but in my mailbox there's a slip saying going to the post office to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know this from previous booby traps. It says on the receipt, the post office opens at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
It does not. It opens at 8:30. When you go there, it says 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing they tell you, so before work, you got to be there because we have jobs to go to and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you go there at 8, but it's a trick.
Right.
Opens at 8:30. Second thing, when I give them the piece of paper, and I said I waited for the redelivery because it says we redeliver,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy at the post office says, but they don't redeliver. So, because my mind made such a big thing out of why can't you fix this 8:30, 8 o'clock thing,
Mm-hmm.
I went and I handed him the slip, and he said to me, without me, I said, I'm not going to be the SOB. I'm not going to point out to them, why don't they redeliver when they say so proudly we redeliver, but they don't.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that my mind, still at this stage of practice, will get stuck on.
Yeah.
Things that seem so fixable,
Mm-hmm.
things that get carried out exponentially. How many people come there at 8 o'clock
Yeah.
because they haven't reprinted new forms?
Yeah.
And the same thing with the redelivery, that they're promising you a level of service which doesn't exist,
Yeah.
but it's on pieces of paper that you're reading.
I love your stories, man. He's crack. He got one of these for like everywhere he goes, you know.
But this is the kind of stuff, because in my mind, there's an obvious deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
It should be corrected. You should not mislead
Mhm.
people like that. There shouldn't be, but that's how life is. It's the messiness of it all. And I had to say to myself, like, you don't have time for this. My effort's not going to mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to know all that stuff I just talked about, it's wrong, but it's not worth my time and attention.
Right.
It's also totally
Well, wait a
100%
minute.
wrong.
Wait a minute. Time out. It's not wrong.
Well, it is.
It's just so.
It's so. It's so.
You see, that,
I know where I was going.
Yeah, okay.
I was going objectivity and subjectivity.
Yes, yes,
I know.
yes.
So it's just so that they say they open at 8, but they don't.
Right,
It's just so that they say they redeliver, but they don't.
right.
See, my issue steps in when you say this and then you're going to do that.
Integrity.
I'm rules based,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And you stepped out of it, and it's okay because the whole world goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I can get tripped up. You know,
Yeah.
and-
Well, when you say tripped up, let's use more precise words. When your mind gets involved and starts getting upset and starts creating an inner state that's
but
uncomfortable.
it notices a definite thing outside of me. It's not all my hype.
Well, what it's doing, what your mind is doing, is making something wrong. Okay?
Is it not obviously wrong?
You know, but there's a difference between there being a mistake or there being a lack of integrity and your mind making it wrong. When your mind makes it wrong, you get to be right. The fact of the matter is that, okay, the post office's integrity is out. That's the what's so. Okay? The post office's integrity out, they're saying one thing and doing another. Integrity is being your word. Integrity is a very important part of relationships. Integrity has a lot to do with our practice here, right? And integrity is very important. But when integrity is out, which you will find that it is often in many people, okay, integrity is just out. You know, it's neither good nor bad. It's neither right nor wrong. And those are the things that you have to do to stay objective about it. You know, the word wrong is a very troubling word to me, okay? And because the ego so loves to be right. And remember we talked a while ago about Pema Chodron when she was talking about how seductive and delicious it is to find fault with something, how your mind so loves to find fault with something.
I mean, I didn't have to hunt for this.
Mhm.
You know, it was obvious for me in two
Mhm.
places. They said they redeliver, they don't, and they said it's open at this time, and they don't. But in the end, I had to say, because once I got in my car, especially, this most recent time, who cares?
Yeah.
They're all wrong. It's all left up at who cares?
Yeah,
I got things to do today with my life and whatever.
I would really encourage you to leave the wrong out of it. Like, really stop using that word.
It's different than what they say it is.
Well, their integrity is out.
Yes, and they don't fix it. They
Yeah.
know it's out.
And they don't fix it.
They
They
keep
know
it
it's out and they don't. That's just what's so. See, this is such a great example because there's millions. We're all experiencing this on some level because integrity is something that's hard to find, right? This is exactly what I'm pointing to. The what's so is their integrity is out, right? Where your mind starts coloring your world is when you start saying this is wrong, it shouldn't be this way, and the wheels start turning, and the wheels start going, and next thing you know, you have a perfectly good, perfectly happy life, beautiful day, beautiful place to live, all the food you want to eat, everything you want, and you're walking around in your head upset because the post office doesn't have integrity.
But Tom, I knew enough to, once my car hit military trail,
Yeah,
it was over.
yeah,
I mean, before I left the premises of the post office,
right,
it was over.
Yes.
I wasn't going to let it color the rest of my day.
yeah.
But, to me, it's hard to understand how somebody, institution can be so...
Yeah, but let that go.
I know, but that's my own little thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling
I don't know if you left it in military trail. We're military trail is close,
No,
right?
no,
It's right out there.
because it pops, the same kind of thing does pop up. Those are the things that test me.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how your mind bites on that like a dog on a bone and just doesn't want to let it go? It's incredible.
Efficiency, that's my hot button.
Yeah. Yeah, efficiency, whatever it is, we all have them. You know? It's so fascinating to watch what your mind does. I really encourage all of you, and I really want you to learn to really even objectify your own mind. You know, like, understand we're experiencing here more and more. Some of you, the longer you have been here, the more you experience that you are the awareness of the mind. You can even objectify the mind, and you watch the mind making the post office wrong, and that's just what's so.
They don't care they're wrong. They can't. They're out of alignment.
Don't miss this, okay? Don't miss this. You can even objectify your own mind. In order to objectify your own mind, you have to realize that you are not your mind. Because a lot of times these things are so conditioned into us, this is just what the mind does. Okay, here's another inefficiency thing, and my mind goes, you know, that's the first domino, and I know what my mind does after this. And so, as you remain as the awareness, aware of all things outside you, aware of all things inside you, you are even aware of the mind and what the mind is doing, and you have no judgment of that. But as you sit as the awareness, you don't have to participate in what the mind is doing. This is the bridge right here. We're right at the bridge.
So here's something I noticed too, that the closer I am to something, or I guess the more personal something is, the less I can be objective about it. So like what John's saying, I can relate to that. And when he's telling me, I'm kind of like, yeah, no big deal. But if it would have just happened to me on the way over here, I would feel the same way. And I'd be all... But it's one of those things that the more like personal it is, if I, you know, if I hear, I can be very objective or more easily objective with other people and their problems.
Right, sure.
When it's my problem, it you know, it's going around in my head, and I can't be objective about it. A lot of times I have to talk to somebody else about it before, like,
who
it
is
needs
objective.
it needs to get out of my mouth, you know,
Yeah.
like out of my head somehow, so I can be more objective towards it. So that's something that, like, I notice, you know, like with, so the closer, if it has to do with me, it's very difficult to be objective. And, you know, if it's like my kids or my family or friends, then it's even, you know, a different scale. And then if it's somebody else or it's a story on TV, I could care less. But if it happens to me, it's a whole different story.
Why do you think that is?
Because everything's about me up here.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, that, you know, I'm conditioning.
When you say that you're taking something personally, personal is such a very interesting word, because it implies the person, that I am living life as a person. So there has to be a person there who is taking something personally. Right? That person is only an idea in your head. The person that is taking it personally is a concept in your mind. And your world is being colored by concepts in your mind. When you transcend the mind, is there a person there anymore? A person to take things personally, to get offended, to know who I am. All ego. The world that we live in and who we think we are all concepts and ideas in our mind. I've said this before to try and illustrate this, is that we all have our book. And it's the book that we have written about our life. This is who I am. This is how the world is. This is how my life is. And it's like a book, a big book that we just keep writing and writing. Now the reason that I use the metaphor of a book is so that you can see so objectively that who you are and the world that you live in is just a story, like a story in a book that you can read. What happens when you close the book and throw the book away? Enlightenment. Transcendence. And it doesn't mean that life becomes bland or vanilla or you're blank. You're present in the moment. The intuitive mind somehow guides you, unlike the rational mind that needs reasons for everything. There is no judgment, objectivity, equanimity. And in that space, your nature of just loving kindness just comes shine through right out, effortlessly. And I'm sure that some of you have even been in that space for moments in life. And it is completely wonderful. It's not a mind-based happiness. Excuse me. A mind-based happiness is when the world is the way your mind thinks it should be. Next time you get a letter from the post office that says we're open at 8:30 and we're not going to try to redeliver this, so don't wait for us. And your mind gets all happy, like, wow, finally, you know, it's how it should be. And your mind for a moment is happy. But the world is always changing, something is always changing, and the mind will always find reason to be upset. And so what, I'm always here trying to do every week in satsang with you is help you see more clearly what your mind is doing. How this works. And to help you hopefully rely less and less on conceptual ideas and conceptual understanding and begin to get more and more comfortable without conceptual ideas and conceptual understanding. People are married to thinking. And they are thinking and 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 thinking, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And it never stops. And they never even question it. because it's always been that way. Here I want you to question it. Do I really need these thoughts? Is it required of me to be thinking all the time? These thoughts are very aggravating. They're very upsetting, some of them. Why do I give them any attention? Who am I that's giving them attention? Who am I that is taking the attention away? Perhaps I'm not a who at all. Perhaps I just am. The mind is constantly coloring the world. Constantly. When you put the mind down and just be, peace and joy. This is why I want to take you 2 miles into the woods, away from everything, and just be. And it's going to be like retreat style. I have someone that may teach us some yoga in the morning that may be coming. We're going to be meditating. We're going to be having fun. I really encourage those of you who don't absolutely have to have your phone on to leave your phone off. Not even really any music, I don't think. I'm still up in the air about that. I like music, but I just want quiet. And I want no distractions. And I want to just be. I will have my phone on me in case of any emergencies or anything. But I want you to just unplug from this machine that you are plugged into. As I've got wires all over me and computers.
I just have to share a story. It's related but kind of unrelated.
Awesome.
Of not just looking at things and making a judgment, so you're not being objective. But what you said about, writing your own story and how connected we are in creating this ego, this life story. So I had a phone that basically had 7 years worth of data, pictures, everything. I mean, I thought the woman I thought we backed it up, she was with me for 3.5 hours. We were not face, but where they take over your computer anyway.
Yeah.
I lost everything, all the context. And I can tell you, it was literally like having an identity crisis.
Wow.
And I was aware that I was having it, but I was like, how am I going to get it? First, the panic of how is anyone going to get a hold of me? Like, I'm going to be lost in the world. And like, how am I going to get a hold of these people? And okay, some of them I can find through, this, and some I can. But then it was like, what about those ones that, like the XX that maybe one day, And then it was the photos, like I got over that because people started calling. I was like, okay, well, the people, who I really need to connect with will call.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people, the main important ones, I did have their address and phone number, but then it was all the pictures are gone. Then it was the notes that you had helped me, by advising to be efficient that I had so painstakingly made to my grocery list, and these are the vitamins to order, and these are the places to go in Florida, and it was like a day of just like loss of like I was mourning myself, and then I was like, it was like one of the best things that happened because I almost kind of like just relaxed out of myself, and I was like, you know what, none of that's me anyway. I mean, when was the last time? I have 7 years. Did you print any of those pictures?
Yeah.
Did you show anybody? Maybe. They're not on Facebook. I don't do Facebook. But you know what I mean? But it's interesting that through our phones, we've almost cataloged our ideas or who we are, and especially through Facebook. I don't do Facebook, but
Sure.
and all those things. So just interesting note.
So first you felt anxiety about it?
Oh yeah. It was funny. There was a guy in the store and I was messing with him because he was eating, and I had been there for like 3.5 hours, and I was like, you guys are going to have to call a therapist. Like, I can't leave. Like, the guy was talking to me. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. It's like, wah, wah, wah. Like, just give me.
Wow.
Like, when he told me, he's like, it's all gone. I'm like,
Wow.
And then I was numb. It was like seriously, I was in shock. And
Yeah.
then I went through like the stages of death. I'm not even, denial, bargaining. Well, maybe if I plug in my iPad, maybe there's something there.
It's shocking, right?
Anyway.
No, that's really a wonderful example. How tightly we hold on to things, and then all of a sudden it's all gone, and you feel like lighter, right?
Well, yeah, and just realizing that the I don't want to say hypocrisy, but like it's almost like in case of an emergency, I have the proof of dawn here,
Right.
And when it was gone, it was like, oh my gosh, what do I have to refer to? Even though I really wasn't referring, as I said, especially with the pictures.
Yeah.
As much as I wish I would have printed them and sent them for people, all the things I had ideas for, I'd never have, and the likelihood that I will, but it's like those memories are in my head. Like I don't need to have them logged and categorized and just, they literally 2013 Lake Geneva and it's like they make you feel like this is the story of your life. Anyway, in Google.
Oh, that's such a great example.
But I felt really free afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I really Todd had the kids. I couldn't even hang out with the family. Like I was like, I can't see anyone. Like I'm like, I can't even talk to anyone right now. Anyway.
Yeah, that's upsetting, right? Why would that be so upsetting to her? Oh man, did you hear what he said? See?
She deleted Dawn.
She deleted Dawn.
But there's a new dawn and
How cool is that? That's exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to delete you. Now you can see your very natural resistance to being deleted. You can see in that moment how tightly you hold on to your identity. This is why so few experience enlightenment. It's not your identity holding on to you. It's you holding on to it. And the reason that you hold on to it is because you don't know what you are without it, and you feel like you are disappearing. And that can be very, very, very uncomfortable. You are so invested in the person that you have created yourself to be. And you do not want to let go of that. And so you hold on to the mind and you hold on to the concepts. And you hold on to your ideas and your photos and your images. But the truth is that when you let go of it, you experience the self, the pure awareness beyond concepts and ideas.
So, that's kind of looking into the past, kind of, but I kind of asked myself a while ago, how can I live a story-free life from this point forward? And it involved going through all my mom and dad on our wedding day pictures, and there's little Johnny in a tub on that little corner table, and then there's that over there. All of it went into a suitcase.
Yeah.
All of it's in a closet.
Yeah.
No story on my wall. Nothing to point to me back on that vacation.
Interesting. Yeah.
The things that are on the wall are neutral.
Yeah.
Story free. So I realize, like we all have a story. Like Kramer couldn't become a banker in Seinfeld. He was going to commit suicide.
I don't
It's an
remember
obscure,
that
obscure episode.
one.
But we all have a story, and we get hurt by a story and limited and tossed around. And, it seems like a story snuck up on us.
Mm-hmm.
But I know from as of a couple of years ago, I realized all this storyness,
Mm-hmm.
even the story on, when you, God, don't flip through a photo album. That's terrible. You know what I mean? It really is the emotions and the stories that. So that's the way I de-storyfied my life.
Interesting.
And it works for me.
Yeah.
There's none of those moments of glancing. Was that the real John at 20? Was that really you? And
Yeah. You know, what that also allows you to do, I mean, the past, you can remember the past and enjoy memories about the past, but not live in the past and not be identified as the past. Because if we're to take a really clear look at what we're experiencing, there is only this moment. Time is not something that exists in the way that your mind perceives it. And this is one of the strangest of the realizations, is the realization that there's really no time. That there is only now. And everything else besides right now is a thought, a story, a thought. It's just a thought. Everything that's not right now is just a thought. It has to be. And where we have been living and what we have been identified as a person, we have been very much spending our time in thoughts about past, in thoughts about future, and we've not been here in this moment. Most moments we're waiting for some other moment that's better than this moment. And when we get there, then we'll be happy. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm telling myself you don't have to keep looking at it.
Yeah.
That's what looking at. It's amazing. I'm not just like, you're an idiot.
It's funny, John, because last week I wasn't here. So this is like the thing you're talking about. Just a competition. This year.
Hey, what's worse, having no clock or a clock that doesn't work? Well, a clock that doesn't work is right twice a day, right? So
I enjoy that part of the training, so thank you.
yeah, yes, I did it on purpose. It was working. I broke it.
Tom, I just want to mention this. There was something you said before about attention and thoughts and stuff, and paying attention to your own thoughts. And sometimes somebody's talking to us, or we're supposed to be engaged in a conversation, but they say to you, "Hey, you're not paying attention to me." So you were able to hear their words
Yeah.
and not pay attention to the words connecting in sentences and forming. But yet, and that's proof to me that we can do it the same thing to our own. I don't have to pay attention to my thoughts.
Right.
Just like it would be rude of me if I wouldn't be paying attention to you and you would notice it.
Mhm.
Same way I don't have to pay attention to the garbage in my head.
Yeah. You lose interest in the garbage in your head.
Yep.
And again, the idea that you have of who you are is part of the garbage in your head. And this is something that you have to hear over and over again, because your mind is going to fight that tooth and nail. This is why we have satsang every week, every Wednesday or thereabouts. You know what I mean? Because this is something you have to realize, that you just come here to satsang each week, you take a chip out of the wall, a chip out of the wall, a chip out of the wall. You got to hear that over and over again. You know, because there's going to be one time when you hear it and you can go, and everything will be different from that moment forward. Because you can hear this, and what you have right now is a mental knowledge and a mental understanding of what I'm saying. When you practice, when you sit in meditation, when it becomes more and more reasonable to you to say, I don't have to listen to the garbage in my head and I'm just going to ignore it, when that is really kind of second nature and makes sense to you, then that becomes easier and easier and easier to do. Most people really value their thoughts and really hold closely to what's going on in their mind and will go to war over it. When you just simply let go of it, what problem could you have? But again, you know, that part of the process really feels like you are disappearing. But the you that is disappearing is the you that was never real to begin with. When you were a little baby and didn't speak language, you didn't know you were Antoinette. You were still here. You were perceiving. You were hungry. You were tired. You were happy. You know, the way that we have been experiencing life has been completely false. And you can see that that's a problem because it has led to lots and lots of suffering. This mind-identified state this conceptual ideas that we have created in our heads, that we have given such importance to, are the source of all the conflict inside of us. We've not really been living in the world. We've been living in the world in our head. How crazy is that? Is the world something that you're seeing as and experiencing, or is the world something you're projecting? We create these ideas in our head. Maybe they're other people's ideas that got stuck in our head, and we suffer those ideas. This is the way life should be. This is what I should have at this point in my life. This is how it needs to be. All of this craziness, all of these mind-based ideas that don't have any inherent value. Thoughts themselves don't have any inherent value. It's the value that you give them. But remember, too, that there is the intuitive mind and the intellectual mind, and they are not the same. And when the intellectual mind gets out of the way and you experience the self, this is the space that the athletes are in. This is the space that the great artists are in. But like 99% of what we're focused on and what we're perceiving is all of this intellectual mind-based stuff. And it colors your world. And your mind might be saying to you now, well, okay, well, now what? If I clear all of this junk out of my mind, well, now what? Just be. Just be in this moment. How hard is that? Just eat. Huh? You know, if you really look at your life, you know, a lot of us spend a lot of our life in sort of waiting for this to happen, waiting for that to happen. You know, when this happens, then I'll be okay. When that happens, then I'll be okay.
Have you ever tried to teach this to children that don't have these things set in their mind?
Yes, you would be surprised by, yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. You would be surprised at the wisdom that comes out of their mind. Because for them, you know, their minds are just not as conditioned as our minds. You know, their minds have not been filled up with a bunch of garbage yet. And it's really fun to watch them. You know, if you really want to be reminded of your Buddha nature, watch children, and I mean young children. There was one time when I was at City Place in West Palm Beach. You know, they have the stage out there. And the band was setting up, and people were gathering around, and there were a lot of young children around. And all of a sudden, the band started playing. And these kids, they just started moving. It was all little kids, like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, like right in there somewhere. And they just started dancing. And it was you could see they just were drawn to it. I have a video of it on my phone. Maybe I'll post it on Facebook tomorrow. And they just walked out and they started dancing without any idea of who was a good dancer, who wasn't a good dancer, black kids dancing with white kids, tall kids dancing with short kids. There was no ego. There was no judgment. There was nothing coloring their experience. They were completely present in the moment and just like magically drawn to the music and were just absolutely uninhibitedly dancing. And I'm watching this and I'm going, wow, isn't that amazing? What happened to us?
Adversity.
Yeah, what?
Adversity.
Adversity, yeah. You know, we grew up, we developed egos, we start getting these ideas in my head. I'm not a good dancer, I'm not beautiful, nobody wants me, I don't look right, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's incredible. I'll never forget that when I saw them. They were just like, there was no time for them. There was no mind for them. You could just see it. Nobody knew who was a good dancer and who was a bad dancer. They were all just dancing. It was egolessness. I always know I've reached you when it gets really quiet and everyone is just kind of staring like, Because what happens in that moment is that you are realizing, and what you're doing is really recognizing what I'm telling you. You're recognizing it in your own self. You're recognizing it in your own life. And what happens is, for a moment, it makes sense. And then you leave here and you get sucked back into your conditioning and stuff, which is okay, part of the process. What?
But not always.
Well, eventually, though. You know, maybe not right away, but our conditioning is so wired into us. It's so automatic. But it just but once, it's kind of like this, you know, if I had blue sunglasses, right, but I was born with blue sunglasses on. All right, I was born with blue sunglasses on, okay? How would everything look to me? Blue? Would it? I was born with blue sunglasses on. Say it? Normal. Things would look normal to me. And then all of a sudden, someone comes up and says, hey, watch this, and takes the glasses off my head and shows me the world. And now I put the glasses on. Now how do things look? They look blue now. When I'm born with blue sunglasses on, that's just what's normal for me, and I don't know any different. But when someone comes, takes the glasses off, and shows me life without the blue, and puts them back on, now I can see that it's blue. And it's not the way, you know, I'm not seeing it clearly as it is. That's what kind of happens here. Is that you come here, and the glasses come off for a second, whoa, and you just walk out, and something is a little different. John?
Tom, exactly on that same subject. I was going to mention this like about half an hour earlier tonight. I was talking to my friend Paul, and we play guitar, and we used to be in a band back together, and I saw Roger Daltrey on an interview inside with purple glasses. The kinds that are, you know, not blacked out. You can see that he sees through them. But,
right.
You know, and my buddy Paul goes, you know why they do that, John? They want to color their own world, their own preferred perceptions. And he particularly linked it with artistic people, and he named a bunch of other ones that wear a tinted glass all the time.
Interesting.
It's their preferred perception, and they wear it indoors, so everything comes through their preferred filter.
Everybody has a filter. It's called your mind. And so it's very interesting when you just begin even to realize what's going on and just how your mind works, how your perceiving works, how the mind creates suffering for you, and what you can do about it.
I'm having trouble with how practical this is, because if as you go about your day, there are things that you're pulling from the past, and there are things that you're planning for. And I can see where if you take time out of the day to meditate, that's great. But I don't see how you do it going through the day with your job, for instance, or the things you're responsible for.
Very simple, really. You know, it's not that we are adverse to past or future in that sense. We just don't want to dwell in the past or future. Okay? So what that means is, you know, if I'm light a fire and I remember that if I stick my hand in the fire, you know, that it will burn my hand, you know, I want to remember that from the past, you know, so that I don't do that again and hurt myself. Okay? The past is important as it relates directly to this moment. So, if you're at work and you have a certain task to do and you have to remember back, what did someone tell me and what does this, but you are present to remembering the past, which is very different than dwelling in the past. Same thing with the future. If there is a future that I'm trying to create, I want a peaceful mind center that is I desire to create a peaceful mind center that is a farm. It has farm animals and a barn for meditation and yoga. We're growing fresh vegetables and juicing, and a place where people can come and really unplug and transcend their mind, right?
So is it fair to say that you're controlling your thoughts as opposed to
Well, listen,
your
just
thoughts controlling you?
let me finish. In order to create a peaceful mind center, I don't focus so much on the peaceful mind center. I have a very clear picture of what I'm attempting to create. What a desire to manifest, right? And I look at what exactly is causal in manifesting that. And I'm just focusing in the present moment on the causes. So I'm focusing today on what will potentially create the tomorrow that I'm wanting to create. And it may manifest and it may not. But all I can do is focus on the causes. Okay? And what was your last comment that you just made?
Is it fair to say that you are controlling your thoughts rather than your thoughts controlling you?
In a sense, but no. Thoughts arise in the mind, okay? And this is a very common misconception. And you really don't control them. What you actually control is your attention, okay? And what you're controlling is what thoughts get your attention and what thoughts you are completely disinterested in. And if you are even, there's a third choice, if you are even giving attention to any thoughts, because you can rest your attention also in silence. This is a very common mistake. It is the nature of mind that thoughts arise. Modern psychology will tell us there are 50 to 70,000 thoughts that rise through our mind every day. It's only the ones that you give your attention to that have significance. And so, excuse me, in meditation, as taught here at the Peaceful Mind Center, the primary foundational meditation is training your attention. Because once you can control where your attention goes and doesn't go, the world surrenders to you. There is no thought anymore that can grab you by the throat. It can arise, you can notice that it's there. But when you take your attention away from it, it has no choice but then to disappear. A thought is powerless without your attention and without your belief. Absolutely powerless. Yet we constantly, ignorantly imbue these thoughts with such power by giving it attention, giving it attention, giving it attention, and it grows like a weed. The moment you take your attention away, gone. And so, when you look at the mechanism of how the mind works, it is the awareness, the intuitive mind, the awareness that guides the attention. And the thoughts are the observed. And you have to separate these. You have to separate these. And the difficulty in separating them is realizing the awareness. Because residing as the awareness is not thinking about the awareness. It's like, okay, I'm going to sit here and be the awareness now. All right, I think I'm the awareness. I feel like I'm being the awareness. I think, yeah, I'm the awareness. No. The awareness is the one that is aware that you are thinking about awareness. The awareness is the one that is aware of the thought awareness. The awareness is the one that is aware that the thought is gone, aware that the thought has arisen again, aware of silence, aware of all things outside you, aware of all things inside you. All that is observed. It is the observer, the ultimate observer, the self, with a capital S. And it is not the mind. It is the one that is aware of the mind.
We seem to be very good at filtering the things that come at us externally. For instance, if you're in a crowded restaurant and you have to talk to the person in front of you, there are 50 different voices that you could be hearing, that you are hearing, that you have to filter out. So it seems to me that we're very good at that, but very bad at the internal stimuli that we're hearing.
You know, because, and I use that example a lot, that's the very example that I use. The people in the restaurant are a metaphor for the thoughts in your mind. Without your attention, they're there, but they're in your reality, they're effectively not there. Okay? The difference is, in your mind, is that you have not yet realized that thoughts are not the only thing in your mind. That there is also silence. You know, this vast, vast space of silence that the thoughts are arising in. And what I've done in my practice, if I have completely lost interest in the thoughts in my mind and have become very interested in the silence, and I just rest my attention in the silence, and I'm very content with that.
It's a friendly neighborhood.
Very peaceful. Very peaceful. It's the thoughts that torture us. It's the thoughts that upset us. I mean, think about it. You could be laying in bed having an argument with someone that you haven't seen in 10 years and feeling all the upsetness about it. Yeah, or that's dead and losing the argument. It's getting a little late, and I want to get to our meditation. I appreciate your comments and your participation. You can see that it is your participation that I feed off of, and it makes satsang juicy. And I really feel that you are leaving here more and more with more and more value because you are starting to talk to me more. That's why we changed the format a little bit. This is like a group mentoring session, and the questions that arise in the group are important to all of us. So don't be shy. It happens all the time in satsang that people come up after satsang with all these wonderful questions, and I'm like, where were you during satsang? You know, these are questions that everybody should hear. So don't be shy, okay? Does anybody need to stand up and stretch, or if you would like, you can come and sit on a cushion? Why are we missing a cushion there? That's weird. Oh, somebody. Oh, okay. Oh, no, I just wanted to make sure. All right. So now, the most important part of our satsang, we're going to sit here together and come very, very present in this moment. Okay? Very present. And when you notice your attention wander off to a thought, which it invariably will do, just notice it and bring your attention back. And the more familiar you get with your attention, the more unruly you will realize it is. So settle that attention down. Be here, relax, and breathe with me. I will guide you through it. I'm going to have a quick sip, and then we'll start. Okay. So sit comfortably and relax. take a few moments to relax your body, relax the muscles in your face. Enjoy your breathing. Enjoy each breath. Breathe slowly. Breathe consciously. Just relax. Make sure your eyes are still underneath your eyelids. Focus on your breathing. Focus on the in-breath and then focus on the out-breath. Begin to notice, if you haven't already, the silence in your mind. Lose interest in any thoughts in your mind and become aware of the space of silence that the thoughts are arising in. You may notice that your attention habitually goes to thoughts. Consciously change that habit. And dwell with the attention in silence. Got pretty still in here, huh? I love you all very much, and it's always an honor to share this time and space with you. Free hugs at the end of class. Remember, we're not here next week. Take your time, there's no hurry.